feel the same, that August has arrived a lot more quickly than we anticipated after a very busy summer. So the year is going to be full of, well, there will be a lot going on. We have Service First, which will be continuing its implementation. We finally have a budget from the state that covers last year and this year, although it will only be for this year. And we'll have somebody from Human Resources to share with us how those raises and bonuses will be showing up in your paychecks. We also have on the agenda some updates regarding the health plan, well-being, and we have a discussion about our bylaws, which is always an exciting discussion when we talk about the rules under which we operate. So I'd like to, since Chancellor Roberts is already here, and I know he is very busy and has other places to be, Chancellor Roberts, if you'd like to come down and join us for your remarks this morning. And I'll have my hot chocolate so I can wake up. And I see you have your tea, so. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for having me. I echo Rebecca's comments. August got here a lot more quickly than I think we all expected. So I want to leave time for questions. I just have a few opening comments. One is, Rebecca said something about it being a busy summer, and I want to reinforce that. If you're like me, you raise an eyebrow a little bit when people say to you, what do you do all summer at Carolina? You know, the students, some of them are here, most of them aren't. Some of the faculty are here, some of them aren't. But the staff is here, as I don't need to tell you. Almost all of our team in South Building is staff. We're not faculty. I'm not faculty. We're here pretty much all summer, and I see the work that gets done all summer long, getting ready for the school year, clean up after everything that happened the previous school year, all the construction work that happens around campus, all of the landscaping and grounds work, all of the administrative work that has to happen to wrap up a school year and get ready for a new school year. So thank you to everybody on the staff for your hard work over the summer. We're about to start our 233rd academic year, and that doesn't happen without a lot of really hard work from everybody on the staff. It's great for the students and others to come back and feel like, wow, you know, look at all the great stuff that happened at Carolina and Chapel Hill when we were away. But for those of us who weren't away, we know it didn't happen by accident or by magic. It happened through a lot of hard work. So thank you. Also, I received the proclamation that that you all put together about a statement of institutional values, and I wasn't aware that we didn't have a statement of institutional values while other schools did. And I think it's a good idea. I thought the proclamation made compelling points, and I think we should have such a statement. So what we were hoping to ask this group to do is to take a crack at a first draft of that in whatever way is most effective for all of you. Christy Hurt in my office has volunteered to be a coordinator. Obviously, we'll need to seek input from other bodies in addition to this group, but I think it would be really helpful if this group was willing to take the first stab at it. So we're eager to facilitate that and work with you on that. Again, thank you for the suggestion. And as Rebecca mentioned, I think last time I was here, I talked in some depth about what we thought was going to happen with the budget. I think most people probably know the contours of what did happen. We were reasonably pleased with the budget process. The two main things for us that we were pleased to achieve were the legislative salary increases, of course, as well as the bonuses for last year, and then enrollment funding, without which we can't do a lot of the other things that we do around here. And as you know, that had been held up for over a fiscal year, and it's funded in arrears. So we didn't have enrollment funding either for the students who just finished their freshman year or the students who just finished their sophomore year. And And so that was a significant priority for us and for Peter Hans and the rest of the UNC system. And so we're delighted to see full enrollment funding from the system. We were a little worried, as I think I mentioned before, that the enrollment funding might be matched with some kind of offsetting management flex cut, and that didn't happen. So there's always, your wish list for the budget is always greater than what actually happens in the budget. And if it's not, then you probably didn't ask for enough. But given that dynamic, we were generally pleased with how the budget came out. I know Service First is on a lot of people's minds. I think you have a presentation on Service First right after this, and a presentation from HR on the details of the budget. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about those topics or anything else at a high level. But on those two particular topics, it sounds like you're getting a more in-depth briefing right after this. So thanks again for having me here. Excited for the beginning of the academic year and look forward to answering any questions that you all have.
Do we have any questions? Annetta?
Good morning. Thank you for the update. My question is related to the upcoming budget season, just based on we being behind a year. What do you anticipate steps moving forward to try to catch up or be better prepared? Maybe for delays, hopefully there won't be, and we can get the assembly to pass a budget on time, but just, it's already time to start on a new budget season or preparation. So I'm just thinking about how to, as a university, we anticipate what might come at us, so.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. Some of you know I served as state budget director, and this is the time when the budget office starts to send out the request to the agencies to ask for their budget priorities and starts to work with them to deliver a budget at the beginning. The budget should be delivered early in the calendar year. I've always thought there's a little bit of a design flaw in the North Carolina structure in that the short session is always in an election year, and optimally it would be the other way around. So the election is going to govern a lot of what happens with the budget process. We're always going to be a year behind on enrollment funding. It is structurally designed to be funded in arrears, which is a change that was made. I think it was made about 10 years ago, and the thinking was because it's funded based on student credit hours. If you fund it on a forward basis, you need to do it based on projections. And there was all this back and forth about how accurate the projections were and what do you do when you get the actual numbers that inevitably vary, at least to some degree, from the projections, either higher or lower. How do you true up? It's more complicated. And so the shift was made to say, instead of using projections, let's just wait until we have actual numbers. And so a census is taken, I think, at the end of September for all UNC system schools, and they use those numbers, the actual enrollment numbers, to derive the enrollment funding. So that it's always going to be funded in arrears. The problem is that we missed a year, so we had 2 years of backlog instead of the customary 1 year. But you're right, it's time to begin thinking about the new process. We will be working here on campus, Nate Knuffman, the CFO, and his team with the units to respond to the systems request, which will respond to the state budget office request, and we'll start the process all over again.
Ellie?
Hi, Chancellor Roberts. So budget related, I've brought this up before, sorry, so it's probably gonna harangue you about it. I'm the department manager for the Department of Economics. One of the only other projects mentioned in the budget for the past couple of years at UNC is Gardner Hall. Gardner Hall has been pushed off again, renovation wise, within the state budget to that lovely section with no promises. So I think generally a question I have is, what is the university's advocacy for larger projects on campus, excluding Carolina North, that could really assist with our immediate need for not just office space, but mostly student classrooms, things that could be potentially achieved in 2 to 3 years, perhaps, to address that need?
Yeah, great question. So obviously something we spend a lot of time on, and we have two types of projects for which when it comes to repair and renovation, we have two types of projects for which we're talking to legislators about with respect to the budget. One are what they call named projects, which tend to be the bigger projects. And then there's the larger pool of repair and renovation projects, which are, they're not going to schedule out in the budget every chiller plant upgrade across the UNC system. They just fund a pool, which is then funded by the system to the individual schools based on a formula. And we are always trying to balance the fact that we have a lot of older buildings that need either repair or in some cases comprehensive renovation, like at Hamilton Hall or like we already did at Bingham Hall, or demolition and reconstruction in the case of some of our buildings. On the one hand, we have much greater need for, we have much greater use for those funds than we have funds in any given fiscal year. And we don't have a significant excess of classroom space. And so we're always trying to juggle, what do we have money to do? But at the same time, we can't take too much classroom space offline for a given academic year. It's the same thing with residential space. And it's just a balancing act. One thing that we have tried to do is get smarter about classroom utilization. So the data has been pretty clear. It's even more true with lab space, which is at even more of a premium than classroom space. Data is pretty clear that we have not been fully utilizing our space, and we can be smarter about how we schedule classes and about how we use space. The classrooms that are at the greatest premium are classrooms like this one, large lecture classrooms that have technology upgrades in them. And there's some stranded capacity here in the professional schools. Rooms like this one, there are similar ones at the School of Public Health, at the School of Dentistry, that are not generally, they have not generally been scheduled for use by undergraduate classes, but they're available. They sit vacant more of the time than we would prefer. And so trying to make sure we're using all of our space as effectively as possible is a big part of the answer here as well. So we're using every lever we have to make sure that we're simultaneously maximizing the necessarily finite R&R spend, keeping as much classroom capacity online as possible, and doing the necessary repair and renovations. It's an ongoing challenge.
And I'd imagine that there is, with the idea of using classroom space in graduate and professional areas for undergrads, I'm sure there's a little bit of resistance in terms of, I know when I first heard about the idea of undergrads being in the law school, I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Just simply because the different way we conduct ourselves sometimes and expectations and with employers coming in and different exam schedules. So I don't know if you've gotten any feedback like that, but I have certainly heard murmurings from others. So that might be something that we just keep in mind as we move forward with that to address.
There's resistance on both sides. So the schools don't like it because they want to control their space. They don't want the college coming in and taking some of their availability for undergraduate instruction. The students aren't crazy about it either. They don't want to come over here. They want to stay in their normal, quote unquote, commuting patterns for classes. It's much less convenient for them to have to come over here or to the dentistry school to go to a class. But we don't really have the luxury, given the constraints that we're under, of not using modern available classroom space that we have here on campus.
Oh, true. It just does make it for a slight culture shift that on the surface doesn't necessarily look like it. I think it also has the interesting benefit of exposing undergraduates to what they can do after they graduate.
I actually think I'm glad you said that, because that's my view, is that there actually is a benefit to getting students out into the graduate schools that they might not otherwise go into. I generally feel, you and I have two of the only roles. I've talked to Katie about this before when she was in your role. Very few people have a role at this university in which they're moving across the campus
Very
all the
true.
time and talking to people from every different part of the university routinely. Most people are in their silo. They're in their center or their institute or their program or their school. And I think there's something salutary about getting more people, students especially, out around to different parts of our campus and seeing different parts of it and interacting with different people.
Oh, I agree. I mean, when I was a law student and when I started at the law school, I knew the law school, I knew student stores. That was about it. So it has been really nice to get out and see other parts of campus and meet with folks. So yeah, definitely see the advantage of that. Do I have any questions from folks online? I don't see anything in the chat.
Can I just follow up really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead, Ellie.
Well, also, thank you. That was a wonderful plug for the employee forum. So for folks who'd like to join, there you go. I think I just want to mention within that, because I used to do student services. I manage student service managers. Like, it's a constant battle, the scheduling. But the other group of people that is really feeling this, other than the students, is faculty that is specifically teaching faculty who really carry a lot of the burden of the teaching of our undergraduate students and are honestly sometimes being asked to teach at hours that just are not plausible with, work-life balance. So just another group of folks that's to really keep in mind within that context.
Yeah, glad you mentioned that, because the obvious
point.
corollary to being more effective with the scheduling is using more of the week in scheduling classes, and that does require more flexibility from the students, obviously, but also from the faculty who are teaching those classes.
Yes, Katie.
So less of a question, more of a thank you in advance. So I understand that you're going to be hosting us at your home before the Chancellor's Cup Golf Tournament coming up in September. So I wanted to say a quick thank you on behalf of the Staff Assembly. We've got our chair and our vice chair here from the Staff Assembly level to speak with us today. So thank you in advance. I understand you are not a golfer, but we would love to have you come out the day after and kind of welcome us at Finley.
I'm happy to do anything I can to support the effort other than actually play golf.
I'm right there with you.
But
No
I'm
golf
looking
here.
forward to it. Thank you.
Yes.
Happy Friday, Chancellor Roberts. My question is related to Nate Kneffman's Finance and Operations presentation at the Board of Trustees meeting last week. Very excited about the passing of a budget. One of the things I wanted to ask about in the key takeaway slide, which is in slide number 2, he indicated in here that recurring support for skill is one of the outlined ads in the budget. I wanted to know what does that mean? What does that consist of? Is there a number attached to that? I asked Nate a couple months ago about return on investment with skill, as skill's been around for maybe going into their 3rd, 4th year, something like that, and currently do not have any actual majors. They only have minors coming in. And so I'm curious about your perspective on the future, the vision for skill, and since there's delineated support from the legislature for it, what does that look like to create a school with major and minor programs on campus?
Yeah, the skill's been a legislative priority since it started. It's been important to the General Assembly, and they've funded it consistently. They're not the only program like that gets its own line item funding. It's pretty common for the General Assembly to identify particular strategic priorities and fund them separately, not just here, but across the system. Here at Carolina, 2 other examples are the collaboratory, where they put in significant both recurring and non-recurring funding, and then the Economic Forecasting Institute, I think a $3 million line item appropriation, again, going to a specific institute within the business school to undertake a particular task. What Skill uses that money for is predominantly faculty hiring, and they are building out the major. I don't know the timeline specifically, but they have a process to apply for the major and get it approved. I think they're hoping to get it approved this year to be offered to students the following academic year. I think I'm generally right about that, but I don't know the specifics of how that faculty approval process works. So long way of saying they do plan to offer the major, and they also plan to offer a master's degree and a PhD over time. It takes a while to build that out.
And so with new programs, and this is something I'm just honestly not familiar with, when we do start up new programs, how does that, scaling up work before it factors into, the review, the program review process, where we're looking at, is this a productive program that we want to keep? I didn't know if there's a timeline that we have typically for programs when we be given one to see if it is a viable program.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the truth is, I don't know the answer. I don't know if there's some, it's really a question for the provost's office. I don't know if there's some, when a new program starts, if there's some set period of time before it's subject to the overall program review effort. I just don't know the answer.
I just know it started very differently than most programs, and so I didn't know if it would still fall into that process. So I'll ask.
I do think for the program review effort, generally, I think they look at every program, and then the ones that get flagged for further review are the ones that have either declining enrollment or very low enrollment.
Okay.
And then which doesn't, skill is increasing enrollment, but even the ones that have low or declining enrollment, the provost went through this at the trustee meeting. In many cases, really most cases, there's a good reason for that.
Right.
And either it's still an important program to offer, even if it's declining in enrollment. History and not history so much. English has been declining in enrollment for quite some time. It's not like we're going to stop offering English, right? And then there are some programs, particularly specialized grad programs, that are very small, but it's by design. They're expensive to offer. They're highly specialized, and there might be a handful of people in that program, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And so, of the total number of programs that get flagged for review, I forget how many total there were, but it's a multiple of the bottom number was 4 programs that were going to be flagged for discontinuation.
Gotcha.
From dozens.
I remember there were quite a few at that report. Awesome. Thank you. That was helpful. Any other questions? Let's see, there might be one online. There is one online from Michael Williams. The new budget included a salary increase that did not match inflation. What is the university doing to advocate for employees to receive additional increases in the next budget?
So that we and every other state agency have lobbied hard for legislative salary increases. And we have pointed out, as has everybody else, that inflation, that legislative salary increases have not kept pace with inflation. And the good news about that is that it's not a Carolina issue or a UNC system issue. As I say, every agency head across state government has been making the same point, and will continue to do that in the next session.
Great. Thank you. Any other? Okay, I've got time for one more question. Yes, sir.
So as well as money from the budget, we get a lot of money from fundraising, and we've just lost Michael Andreasen this week, and there's a campaign coming up and things. So thoughts and feelings about fundraising at UNC with those changes coming up?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So you're right, private philanthropy is crucial to us. We announced at the board meeting that we had the second best year in the history of Carolina fundraising. We raised $606 million, and that's without being in a campaign. We are gearing up for a campaign in the next couple of years. Those are large scale, long-term, multi-year efforts. Mike got a great offer from Columbia. I'm sure they're paying him significantly more than we can pay here. He's done a great job, as the fundraising numbers indicate. His deputy, Leslie Nelson Bernier, who is stepping in as interim, is a really strong leader. So she ran fundraising for UNC Health, which by itself is an enormous job. She's been here at Carolina for 21 years.
Oh, wow.
And so we're excited about her leadership and grateful that we have such a strong person there ready to step in.
All right.
All right, I'm afraid I do have to go. I'm getting the, the signal here.
I
but-
saw the sign.
Yeah. But I really appreciate you all having me here. Hope you have a good weekend and best wishes for the start of the semester. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Chancellor Roberts. Really appreciate you being here this morning and updating us at the beginning of the year. That was very helpful. I did want to mention some meetings that we have coming up. The executive committee will be meeting August 25th at 1. Stay tuned. I may have to shift that meeting slightly due to a search committee conflict that I need to talk to somebody in this room about. We also have the first of our staff advisory committee to the Chancellor. Oh, that's not exactly what that acronym stands for, but it's close enough. Oh, is it? Okay. Did I? Sounded like the letters were in the wrong order in my brain. But that will be meeting on September 2nd. So if you are a division lead, please keep that date in mind. There are 9 of you. September 11th is going to be the employee forum full body meeting. I will, to be honest with you, I will probably do a moment of silence at 8:45 that morning. That is the 25th anniversary of the attacks on the Pentagon and New York City. And that is an important day in many of our lives. So I will probably either start the meeting with that or do that a little bit beforehand. So September 17th is going to be the Vice Chancellor's representatives meeting at 2:00. That is for delegates. And that will be on Zoom. You do not have to be anywhere in person. And then the executive committee will meet again on September 22nd. That's a little later than usual, but because we have shifted our monthly meeting, we needed to shift that one a bit as well. All right, that is all I have for updates and announcements. I'd like to go ahead and turn the microphone. I don't really need 2 microphones. Sorry, y'all. Lord, I forgot I had the cordless. That chocolate better hit me soon. All right, so would like to issue a warm welcome to our guests from Staff Assembly. And we have a little gift for each of you. I have Alan Porch, who very kindly, though he is from NC State, we are glad to have him here. And he was kind enough to wear Carolina blue. And then Timothy Sampson is also here from UNC Pembroke, also in Carolina blue. So I'm very excited that they came in the appropriate school colors.
We
Thank
represent
you.
everyone.
You do, and it's
We tried, like,
wonderful.
I messed up at Appalachian, but I wasn't gonna mess up here, but also at Appalachian, I reminded them I paid them a lot of money to get a degree.
That is true.
So if I don't wear the colors, I mean, I think I still do the same thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're a little closer. I can find you in town.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can have the mic since you might need that.
I love microphones.
Yes, you do.
And the acoustics in this room are driving me crazy. Like, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I want to say hello. We do have a PowerPoint.
I'm getting ready to bring that up.
It's not like a crazy PowerPoint. I learned my lesson with that. So hi, y'all. What? Oh, yay, Shayna. Okay, cool. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Cool, cool. So we are from the UNC Staff Assembly. And I will go ahead and again introduce myself. My name is Alan Porch. I am the chair of the UNC Staff Assembly. I'm also a business manager at NC State University, where I have been an employee for 20 years. Worked anywhere from an academic unit to an administrative unit, and I've done a little bit of everything there. And I will let Mr. Timothy introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I am Timothy Sampson. I am the vice chair
coming
of the UNC Staff Assembly, and I'm also the director of financial aid and scholarships at UNC Pembroke.
Hang on, it's coming. Somewhere.
So as we work through the technical issues that are, of course, probably my fault, it's PowerPoint. It really is. And when we go, I think one of the biggest struggles we've realized is the differences between Microsoft campuses, Google campuses, and everything in between, and none of it works when you want it to. So what is the staff assembly? First and foremost, I got a little bit of a lesson this morning. I did not realize that the employee forum was 34 years old. So that was really cool to hear. The staff assembly is 20 years old.
Okay.
Officially, I believe in October. And it's exciting to be here. I will say I've heard a lot about the employee forum. And I kind of sometimes look up to that because I think, man, they know what they're doing. You know, you guys, you're out there, you're advocating, and you're making statements, you're doing good for the staff here at UNC. And that's what we want to do with the staff assembly as well. And so as the employee forum, 34 years old, the staff assembly is your kind of bigger representative body. So you're advocating here on your campus, and the staff assembly brings representatives from all 17 institutions that you may see on the screen right now. They're all part of the UNC system. And the staff assembly has representation from each and every one of those schools, 3 delegates and an alternate. Go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Haha. And so just to give you a better representation of where we sit across the state, if you didn't know, these are all the places where we have UNC institutions. NC State and NC A&T are also part of cooperative extension. So our system touches all 100 counties. We have offices in 101 spaces. And so these are the folks that the staff assembly represents through the representative bodies of their staff senates, staff councils, and the employee forum. All right, next slide. And this is the executive committee of the staff assembly. I'm Alan Porch, I'm chair. This is Tim Sampson, he's vice chair. You might recognize Shayna Hill, she's our past chair.
Hey, I just want to add that
She
Timothy
is online.
She's talking. Hang on.
I just want to add that Timothy Sampson is the 2024 Erskine B. Bowles Staff Service Award. Yay!
Thank you, Shayna. Bryn Pulver is our secretary. She is at UNCG. Dr. Jamaica McKenzie is our parliamentarian from NC State, and Matt Horvat is our technology officer, currently at UNCW, but before that was at School of the Arts.
Nice.
So we try to get around. Now, I'd also like to introduce you to our executive committee at-large delegates. One of them is in the room with you right here, Katie Musgrove. Keith Hines, also from UNC. We have Shigale Reed from Winston-Salem State University and Penny Smith from NC A&T. Now, one of the things that I like to point out is that UNC is definitely well represented on our executive committee and has always been a great strategic partner as a member of the staff assembly. But I'd also like to point out too that at-large delegates serve the entire constituency. So they are there to work with all 17 institutions, but y'all got a few of them here. So you definitely have the opportunity to connect with them or Shigale or Penny at any time. And they're one of the ways that you can connect with us if you don't want to reach out to me or Tim or through your delegates. So we can go on. And one of the other great things that we have, and I'm super excited that in September, we'll be coming to the Finley Golf Course, is for the Chancellor's Cup Golf Tournament. Yeah, I know, it's exciting. I actually like Finley. I'm not to say that I don't like anywhere else, but I do like Finley. And you'll also notice someone else from UNC, Lisa Peterson, who is one of the co-chairs along with Catherine McMillan. Yes, we love Lisa and we love Catherine. And Catherine McMillan from UNC School of the Arts. So this particular tournament is in support of the Janet B. Royster Scholarship. Now, this scholarship provides up to $1,000 to a person at each of the 17 schools in the system. It's used for professional development. It is also to remember Janet B. Royster, who was an employee at PBS and was a member of the staff assembly. And so to honor her and remember her and to provide support to our staff, we do the Chancellor's Cup Golf Tournament every year. All right. So we've talked a little bit about how you can connect with staff assembly. You have your at-large delegates. You have the ability to reach out to any of the executive committee. And there are other ways too that you can connect with us or any other school. So if you go to staffassembly.northcarolina.edu, that's our website. You're going to see our delegate contacts. So that's everybody at every institution that has a representative on the staff assembly. You're going to see the contacts for the executive committee. We have contact forms. And again, we have information on other senates. So there's a lot of information there. And you can see our own proclamations, resolutions, things like that. It may get a little bit of a refresh soon, but I think we're really excited to be able to share the information so that you know that you're not alone. I'll say listening to Chancellor Roberts talk, listening to the questions that you ask is definitely, oh, there's Keith. Hi, Keith.
Oh, hello.
Yes. One of our other at-large delegates. Keith has arrived.
He is in the room.
An entrance.
I just want to point out, I did not call the attention to myself. He did.
Look, it's just another member of the executive committee. That's all I got to say. I'm excited to see everyone. So again, as I said, listening to the questions of the group, listening to Chancellor Roberts reminds us that having these contacts and being able to hear that our struggles, our challenges, our successes are not our own all the time and that we're not alone. So that's one of the ways that we can connect with each other. And you can do that online or you can do it in person. Staff Assembly welcomes you either way. You don't have to be a delegate to attend the meetings. We have them online. You can watch. If you want to come and they're nearby, you're welcome to do that. We do not, unfortunately, pay travel if you're not a delegate. But we are available. And this photo here is from our most recent meeting at FSU. The screen resolution doesn't quite show off Rebecca's socks as well as it does.
I'm smack in the middle.
I loved it. Loved every moment of that. And so, that was FSU. Our next meeting in person is going to be at Appalachian State University. I'm super excited for that, as that is my alma mater. And I cannot wait to be back in Boone in October.
The best time to be in, well, not the
really
best time, but one of the best times to be in the
It is a
mountains.
fabulous, fabulous opportunity to be. And so again, one of the other things that's going to happen at that, and we'll talk about that in a minute, will be some elections. But if we'll go on, so again, engaging with Staff Assembly. So you can watch meetings online. You can attend Staff Assembly meetings as a guest. And in October, you could run for a position with Staff Assembly. We will have 2 at-large delegate positions. One of them here in the room is rolling off unless, our technology officer will also be up for election, and our chair-elect. And so speaking about that, these are all 2-year commitments, except the chair-elect, which 4 years. Yeah, I had to count that for a minute. And so there are great opportunities to continue to represent. If you're not on Staff Assembly right now as a delegate, you can run for any of these roles. You just have to be a full-time employee of the UNC system. And
Do you have to be at the meeting if you're running?
You don't have to be at the meeting if you're running, but it helps.
Okay.
Our elections
Just letting everybody
committee,
online know.
Keith runs the elections.
No, you do not have to be in the meeting in person to run. Could it be beneficial? Yes, because you have the opportunity to give your little spiel about why you're running and why people should vote for you. Yes.
But technology officer, it's a hard role to fill sometimes.
Yes. All you tech savvy people, that one is hard to fill.
We need you.
We need you. If you are good at technology, microphones,
Or
rooms
even
like
if you're
this,
not that good, just willing to
learn.
WordPress. Teams. Yeah, you need to understand WordPress and Teams. That's about it.
Which
so
we can teach
actually
you.
right now, Matt actually has far more control than he's ever had. Yeah, and if any indication from our executive committee meeting yesterday, we probably have more knowledge than our partners at the moment. That's not like, or more time. I'll say we have more time. Yeah, because I think, I think there's a lot of stuff with websites and keeping them up to date, which is a struggle for a lot of us. If you've got more than one job, and who doesn't have more than one job, right? I could tell you if I had to put on a hat for everything that I actually do, I would have a closet full and then some. So the other thing that you can do, and you don't have to be sitting on the assembly as a delegate or an alternate, is that you can participate in working groups and committees. So we have several things that are working right now. We've had something with tuition waivers that will come back in January. We have something with flexible work that is almost completely done. We have had the opportunity to sit and work with the system office on some potential streamlining of trainings. And what am I forgetting? Adverse weather. And our procedures manual, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
If that's something that you are like really great with, writing procedures or at least reviewing them, bylaws, these are all things that we actually ask for support, not just from our delegates, but from those that are interested in participating with the assembly.
PR. Yes. You got it.
Yes, I have to charge it, but we have a PR committee that is also now forming. So these are ways that both delegates and non-delegates, our constituents, can participate and be a part of staff assembly and engage. Let's see, so.
Just want to say one thing about the committee work. And so I want to, Keith knows exactly when I said bereavement leave. So I think that, most time when we ask to be on committees, we're like, we don't have time. It's just going to take too much time for me to do what I need to do and be on a committee. But committee work for staff assembly is very important. When I think about the bereavement leave that we now have at the system, it was a group of folks that started, and I think Keith and Jill. So two people finished out that bereavement leave, and so you don't know now, because of that work, we now have bereavement leave for our employees at the UNC system. When it was getting ready the governor signed the executive order and the President Hans was going to implement it for the entire system, we were the first groups of folks that he came online with to tell us that thanks for your work on this previously, we're going to move it for the entire system. So it is important that the work that we do in community work, yes, it takes some of our time, and yes, we have to put some time aside for that, but I think it's very important because when you're thinking about the committee work for the staff assembly, you're working for all 17 campuses and trying to get that stuff for all employees and not just your own institution.
Yeah, and so right here, candid, strong, straightforward advice. That's what the staff assembly is there for. We were charged 20 years ago by President Erskine Bowles to be that voice, to provide that input, and to do things like bring bereavement leave, to bring paid parental leave. Yes, it is law now. It came from our campuses through our assembly and was recognized as something that we need. And that's one of the things that we were able to say that we worked on, that we did. And we did that for all of the employees in our system, and it benefits every state employee. So yeah, excited for that. So when we talk about advocating, what do we do? So we raise funds for professional development. We've talked a little bit about the Janet B. Royster Scholarship. We recognize outstanding leadership. We have an Erskine Bowles Award winner right here. The Thomas Ross Award for Leadership is one that's for our assembly. We also advocate for changes in policy. So again, paid parental leave, bereavement leave. If you remember the 20% rule, you've probably been here for a minute. We helped get rid of that. So those are some of the things that staff assembly does. The other thing that I I know that 20% thing, I could not be more pleased that went away. So when we talk about what else we do, we compare notes, right? So hey, will you go to the next one, please, Rebecca?
Oops.
Great. Yes. So what are we working on now? A lot. So I say that because it feels like it's a lot when we're in the meetings and we're talking about who can do what, like a procedures manual review. The other thing that we do, and what I do specifically, is I speak to our board of governors and our system leaders. So while I'm thrilled that we got a 3% raise, I heard it in this room. I've heard it everywhere else. That didn't keep up with inflation. What I've had the opportunity to do at 2 Board of Governors meetings is remind them that we needed more, that we are facing challenges, and I'm still going to need to do that. I'm going to have to reframe that a little bit because we got a little bit, but we still need more. And so part of that is me physically saying that to our Board of Governors. Part of that is me having conversations with leaders in informal ways and formal ways. I think one of the greatest opportunities that I get at a Board of Governors meeting, whether I'm speaking or not, is being in the room for 2 days with everyone. The chancellors, their chief of staffs, their, CFOs. Those are the opportunities to not only advocate for the system, but to help in ways if there's problems at some of the other schools, if there are challenges and they need a little bit of assistance. That's what I help. That's what I try to help do. Y'all, I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to see your chancellor. Your chancellor was physically here in the room with you. That doesn't happen everywhere. I realize that's not something that happens every meeting here, but that's special. Y'all have an amazing relationship there if you have your leadership coming to you, because not everyone has that. So I couldn't be more thrilled to see that and to see active engagement, to see him here answering your questions, and for y'all to have questions. I think when you have an opportunity like that, it's something that you need to recognize and understand as special. Because again, not everyone else has that. So,
And we've got over 100 people online on our meeting right now.
that's also amazing. Yeah, no, I think the engagement is good. And so not everybody has that though. So again, that's one of the things that we help to do with the assembly, is try to bring people together, whether that's me talking to leaders, whether that's Tim working with the chairs, whether that's our at-large delegates. We are there for everyone. So we're working on proclamations. We're almost done with the flexible work proclamation. We are working on something with tuition waiver usage, consistency with adverse weather. These are all things that are important and they matter for everyone. So the other thing that I would say that we really do is we compare notes. And I touched on this too just a minute ago, hearing your chancellor, hearing your questions. I think, man, that's happening at NC State. Or we had that same question at NC State. Or, I know Appalachian had a very similar question. We're in the same room. We talk about what works and what doesn't work, where our pain points are, and what we can do better for everybody. And I think we're working on that. We can always do more, but I will say one of the past chairs of the assembly told me something. She said, pick 3 things. Pick 3 things to work on and see if you can get those 3 things done. It's been really great being here. I think one of the reasons that we come and we've been doing this, because we've been to 8 schools now on what we're calling a road show, is to make sure everybody knows what staff assembly is, make sure that they know what we do, and specifically thank each and every one of you.
Yeah, so I told Alan when we started this thing that this is a priority for us to visit schools and be able to thank you for all you do. We can't, staff assembly, the whole body's not on every campus, but we have delegates from each one of the 17 institutions. But because of the work that you do here and they do at other schools, that's why the assembly is able to be successful as we are to get things done, because you're making an impact on your campuses. And then that's rotating up to the assembly and also to the system office. And so we just really, one of our main goals is to come by and say, thank you for all you do. There's a lot of things that staff do behind the scenes that nobody never knows. Nobody never recognizes, you don't get an award for it. But sometimes, like Chancellor Robbins just said, is that we're here when everybody else is not. So we're here and we're doing what we need to do, and things are happening behind the scenes. So we just want to say thank you from the assembly. Thank you from the system office for all you do for your staff here at UNC-Chapel Hill. And also thank you for all of your delegation and all of your support on the executive committee, because again, like Alan just said, is that we have to work together. We compare notes, we do those things. And the delegates that you have here, and especially the 2 sitting at the table right here in front, and Shayna, that's online, does bring a lot to the assembly and a lot of advocacy for your campus and those kind of things. So we appreciate Katie, Keith, and also Shayna. Thank you for all you do for us and staff assembly. And again, I want to give all of you a hand clap too. You deserve it. Thank you for all you do here as well.
I mean, obviously you guys really help with like procedural writing things. So I do want to say a big thank you to Katie and Keith for that too. So that's really all we have. thank you very much for your time. We have really enjoyed being here. I'm actually excited to watch your meeting. I don't know why I'm thrilled. I love watching these meetings. So unless you guys, y'all have any questions, Miss Katie?
Not a question, but just a shout out and a thank you for your service, both of you, for the staff assembly, because really like this place, it's a really complicated institution, bringing 17 disparate institutions together to try and like go forward together. And you're doing a really great job of leading our body, and I want to thank you for that. And I also want to make a plug. We got to visit Tim's amazing campus, UNC Pembroke, recently. Alan, I have yet to be at NC State's campus, so I just feel like we're call to action that we need to at least, I guess, go visit that school down the road.
So funny thing about that, I thought the red would just repel everyone from UNC, so I didn't know if that would really work. It doesn't work with some of our complexions. No, so I will say that I am trying to compile some information to coincide a meeting in potentially October 2027 at NC State.
Awesome.
So we will see if that goes. I show my chancellor things from the other campus visits, and he goes, wait a minute, Chancellor Allison didn't give you that. Wait, what did Chancellor Roberts say? These are the things that are fun for me to mention to my chancellor at NC State
There
to
you
get
go.
those things, to grease the wheels.
And there's somebody online that said, I got lost at NC State once. And one of our delegates said, thank you for advocating for pay increases. Plenty of us keep moving farther and farther from Chapel Hill to try to find some place we can afford to live, which makes things like showing up in person for employee for meetings even harder. So,
Yeah, I think there's a bridge in
you.
Wilmington too that's about to go tolls. That's going to affect a lot of the people
Ooh,
in UC.
ouch.
But yeah,
Katie, I was just gonna say you should go to NC State and get ice cream because the ice cream is
Oh,
incredible
yeah.
from Howell and Cow.
Two roosters.
Well, I'm saying the ice cream at NC State is good, but hello, thank you all for your presentation. My name is Natasha Young. I work in student life and leadership here on campus. My question is for y'all is what do you all think has been your most proudest accomplishment on staff assembly, whether that's from you all individually or the staff assembly as a whole?
that's tough. I mean, I think paid parental leave was a big deal. I think bereavement leave was a big deal. Somebody that has worked on class and comp stuff on and off, the 20% rule really was one of the things that I think I was most excited about that has actually happened while I was a part of staff assembly.
Mhm.
And I think just, yeah, I don't know, Tim, you have anything?
I was gonna say for us, it's the flexible work that's coming out in our proclamation because of the fact that we have a lot of schools that's having the same issue of not being able to travel or have to move far away from their schools because they can't afford to live. So having flexible work and being able to work at home will be great for most of our things. So I'm excited about the proclamation that's almost here. One more meeting we should be here, and so just to give schools a tool or resources to have that conversation. Because as you know, and I know that all of our 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was great to be a state employee because you had all these great benefits
Oh,
you
so
could look
many.
into. As you know, from year to year, them benefits are dwindling. So we need to find other ways to keep our staff and everybody at our campuses. So I'm excited about flexible work. That's what I'm most proud of.
For your work, appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Cool. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do I have Mercedes online for our standing rules?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button.
Oh, you're fine.
Um,
Do you want me
so-
to share them or do you have them queued up to share?
We don't need, my understanding is we don't have to read them out because we sent them out ahead of time.
Yes, that is true.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, I don't have them pulled up right now.
That's fine. All right. I will.
Did we send out the revised version or did we send out the original version? Because I know I sent in edits.
Was that one of the things that Matt sent out just recently?
Yeah, I believe it's the edited version went out. So, all yours.
So the standing rules have to be voted in once at every year. Sorry, my thing's going off. Because we send them out ahead of time, we don't have to do the read to meeting thing. And I believe we can vote just affirmatively, correct? Rebecca?
I believe we just need a motion.
So
the
motion
vote.
to approve the standing
Motion to
rules.
approve the standing rules. Do I have a motion from a delegate to?
So
approve?
moved.
So moved. Ellie Alexander moves. Do I have a second? Natalia, sorry. Natalia seconds. Do this by acclamation. Do I have anyone opposed to holding the vote? All right. All those in favor of the standing rules, please signify by unmuting or saying aye here in the room.
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Seeing no abstentions or opposition, the standing rules have passed, and those are the rules that we will continue to operate under for the rest of the year. Thank you all. All right, our next presentation is from Natiaya Neal, our forum chair-elect, who will be coming over to join us and share highlights from our June employee forum listening session on Service First. So I'm going to bring up her presentation. Microphone is right at the front for you. Mhm. There you go. Just pop that in. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. I also love this microphone and the acoustics in this room, Alan, so I like that you noticed that. And we also think Carolina is a special place, so happy that you also feel that way too. Today I'm going to be sharing results from the listening session that was held on June 30th with all staff. We'll go to the next. Oh, yeah,
We're good. It's got a little delay once I hit click.
So generally, we host these listening sessions for all staff who are affected or want to give us feedback regarding the Service First initiative. We hold the sessions in order to elevate concerns and insights and help staff advocate for improved communication during the implementation process. Okay, next slide. The sessions were facilitated by the employee forum. All feedback was gathered anonymously. No names were recorded. In June, we held a virtual session. 286 staff members joined to give us feedback. So some top concerns that were noted during this session: employees generally support improving efficiency and standardizing business processes, but express significant concerns regarding the implementation process of Service First. The strongest themes were uncertainty, communication gaps, preservation of institutional knowledge, employee morale, and maintaining service quality. Some things that we noted during the session specifically was staff feel concerned that centralized service centers may reduce responsiveness and weaken consultative support for faculty, departments, and students. Staff fear that specialized academic and research environments require embedded expertise. Staff are worried the risk of losing experienced employees and longstanding relationships will have potential impacts on compliance and research administration and operational continuity. In regards to employee morale, widespread reports, anxiety, uncertainty, declining of trust, concerns about retention, prolonged uncertainty itself is viewed as negatively affecting the workforce. And also operational risk. Participants identified concerns regarding HR, consulting, IT support, faculty-facing services. Okay, next slide.
This one? Or this one?
That one, yes. Okay. So different opportunities that were identified during the listening session on June 30th, where participants identified constructive opportunities for standardizing policies and business processes, modernizing technology and improving system integration, expanding successful partnerships through phased implementation. And I want to note that there were a lot of comments about phasing implementation as opposed to fast decisions and quick stepping. We also noted that there was an increase, staff want an increase in employee engagement, which, as you know, Rebecca has been advocating for. Okay, so some recommended success measures that came out of the session were employees recommended evaluating service first through balanced metrics, including service first quality and response times, customer satisfaction, compliance outcomes, staff engagement and retention, financial performance. Next slide. The key insight that I want to note is that there is a trust gap. Participants stated that employee attrition, loss of institutional knowledge, and reduced organizational capacity as expected outcomes of the initiative's cost reduction strategy rather than unintended consequences. Whether or not this perception reflects organizational intent, it has become a significant driver of employee anxiety and diminished confidence in the change process. Next slide. So moving forward, we intend to use this feedback gathered. Rebecca will ask questions today. I am going to the drop-in office hours for Service First this Wednesday. If anybody wants to join me, that link is on their website. It's open. We have compiled a list of questions pulled from all the data from the listening sessions. And we're going to go to the sessions, ask the questions, and then follow up with you on what we hear back. And then at our September full body forum meeting, we'll have the opportunity to let you guys know our next steps and where we're going moving forward. We do have to regroup. We've got some new committee chairs. And so we hope to talk about that more this month at the executive committee meeting.
Awesome.
Back to you.
Thank you. All right. So I'd like to just talk very briefly about the Board of Trustees meeting. Nothing, whoops, I thought I was sharing. There we go. Specific about the meeting, but for those of you who are curious what is discussed at the Board of Trustees meeting, I would encourage you to take a moment to watch them. If you want the summary version of what is going on, I'd watch day 2, which is the full board meeting. You can also, if you're interested in what was shared with the Board of Trustees by Nate Knuffman, Vice Chancellor Nate Knuffman regarding Service First, which I've had a few questions in my inbox about. The first 30 minutes of the Thursday committee meetings, there is a very good, well, it's a good summary. It's Nate Knuffman's presentation. So to encourage you to take a look at that day one. And you can send a request for these links to employeeforum@unc.edu, or you can just Google UNC Board of Trustees, find their website, and go to their agendas and find their recordings. It'll say it's a live stream, but it is a recording. All right, I'd like to next hand the mic over to Scott Savage, our Associate Vice Chancellor of Organizational Strategy and Performance, to share an update regarding Service First. Are you online, Scott?
I am, Rebecca. Thank you so much. Apologies about not being in person. I am down in Georgia with my oldest daughter, moving in after this meeting.
It is that time of year.
It is that time of year, and I had this day off, but as the employee forum stuff was picking up over the summer. So I know being present in person for these types of discussions, I do feel like is more impactful. Rebecca, I've got Courtney Alston, who you all know has been on the Service First team for quite some time. And since I'm in my car, she's going to MC the slides. So I apologize if we get out of sync a little bit, but we'll do our best. For the first part of the session today, I really have a handful of updates around the operating model revisions that were happening over the course of spring into the summer, and where we landed. That was communicated out to campus with Vice Chancellor Knuffman's email around the budget reductions, but also updates on Service First. I'm going to talk about Assistant Vice Chancellor structure that is getting put in place for what we're calling the Academic Professional Pod and the Health Sciences Pod. And then, a lot of what Natiaya nicely walked through, an update on some of the work streams we've been talking about in earnest throughout the year, in particular the HR evaluation, the KPIs and metrics value dashboard, and then an update on the workflow and technology enablement work that's been ongoing and where we are with next steps on that. So the first slide that Courtney has pulled up, the operating model that was originally launched at the end of January of this year looked very similar to this. I know there's a few questions about Vice Chancellor Knuffman presenting a new operating model, but the intent of this slide throughout the course of the posting on July 28th was just to memorialize with what has changed since that original January version. The first is where the School of Social Work aligned. It went back and forth with leader representation from the dean at the social work and also with provost, the new provost coming in. And we landed on the social work school being housed in the health sciences pod. So that was one switch. If you are reconciling to the prior version, social work, I think for one of the functional areas was in health sciences, and for some of the others it wasn't. So just to create consistency and where we feel like it's going to be a better alignment of services needed, social work moved into that. The second was simplification of the academic professional pod. The original version had that overall pod, but then it was separated into too many pods. And based off of the initial headcount within those groups and what we're aspiring to do, the steering committee landed on agreeing that that could be a one pod focus for implementation and continuing to work in the spirit of what those units need on an ongoing basis in alignment with that. The last, very similar administrative pod, if you think about the first version, there was a spirit of separation between the administrative functions within Vice Chancellor Knuffman, the Chancellor's office, the Provost's office, and then the academic side as well. The current version that the steering committee agreed on in late July was to have a similar one pod focus for the administrative model. And so the version that was sent out across campus was genuinely just to provide an update on any modifications that were out there. I apologize about not being more direct, not necessarily in the campus email, but the recent summer posting we did online. But with the forum inviting us back, I wanted to document what the changes were and make sure that if you have questions about that, or any other things that you feel like we missed, if you'll just let us know and we can give you a reason, or if it's an adjustment we need to make, we can definitely do that. But this is definitely right now the move forward operating model as we move into implementation in the fall semester into the new year. Next slide. So I mentioned assistant vice chancellor structure. We posted 2 assistant vice chancellors that would report up to my role, one to lead the health sciences pod and one to lead the academic professional pod. We only posted those for internal candidates. So far, we've got 11 candidates. The recruitment is open still at this point. We've given priority consideration to those that have applied the first few weeks when these postings went up at the end of June. We're looking for internal candidates that can help steward the next phase of Service First and being an operational accountable partner to not only the unit level deans and that leadership team, but also rolling up to the larger Service First executive team and the steering committee. The search committee for that consists of, hopefully I don't forget anyone, myself, Linc Butler from HR, Andy Johns from Research Administration, Colette Brown, who leads the Service Center of Excellence, Jacob Bacharach from the College of Arts and Sciences, and Lauren Parton from the School of Government. We're in partnership with UNC Executive Talent Management. They're helping with the planning and execution on an initial series of search committee interviews that should start getting set up next week into the following week, and then ultimately having a day-long interview with a few different constituents, including the unit leaders for what these positions are to represent across that 2-pod model. And we'll have Q&A after this. We had the town hall that Natiaya mentioned, that if you have questions after this and we don't have time to get to them, hopefully you'll hop on next Wednesday where we'll close out some questions we don't get to today and then have a usual session of getting through questions that come up in the chat or just that people want to ask verbally. So that is the Assistant Vice Chancellor recruitment update. Next slide. So the work stream model, if you think back to what's posted on the website and what we've been presenting for the last few months, originally consisted of 10 work streams. And originally we built that framework to not forget anything, and it stretched across the implementation cycle into continuous quality improvement, change management, and people success. I do forecast us simplifying that a little bit. The 4 that routinely we've provided updates on to employee forum and across campus is around the HR evaluation, the KPI metrics value dashboard, which aligns with some of the questions we got and the material of opportunities that Natiaya presented. And so I'm excited about some of the updates of where we are with that. And then also similar extension of those comments from the June staff town hall of where we are with the workflow and technology enablement and being able to give our staff members, our faculty members, the very best solutions, whether it's the current versions we've got or over time having a larger strategy for that. Those are 3 of the 4 that I mentioned. The 4th is the process standardization. There's a lot of work that went in that. I don't have a slide on that. That'll be hopefully what we lead with for the September employee forum, but the partnership with operational excellence and STAC in particular of recommending a slew of different processes across the functional areas is work that the operational excellence team is going to kick off on a few of those projects. So the HR evaluation we've talked about for quite some time. I feel like at the last employee forum, which would have been June or May, the update was we really missed the mark on executing on the HR evaluation across the functional areas in a timely manner in the spring. The steering committee went back and forth over the summer with the best way to execute on that. We do have initial unit level meetings. And when I say unit level meetings, I'm specifically talking about the 10 schools that are within the pod structure for the academic professional, those 6 schools. And then the health sciences pod, those 4 schools that are intended to get into the detail of positions identified that very similar to what the University of Communications and Marketing went through of what positions would be in scope, having that dialogue with the dean and or designees, and being able to work forward to a targeted implementation of select staff members to build out those initial pods for what would be the HR, finance and procurement, and research administration pod. As Nate's message, Vice Chancellor Knuffman's message last week mentioned, UCM continues to work on a hybrid centralized model, and IT will continue to work on more of a centralized vertical. And the timing of that, the hope is that all of those will coincide as we move into the fall with, I think, a targeted October 1 date of some of the movements for personnel across our teams. So the next few slides, I'm going to ask Erin Madison. Erin's Executive Director for Service First and all things behind the scenes process and data. And she's going to provide an update on the KPI metrics work stream and then also the workflow and technology enablement work stream. Erin, you on?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, everyone. So like Scott said, a quick update on where we are with KPIs and metrics. We have developed a draft set of KPIs based on first a scan of what's being measured at our peer institutions. We also got internal feedback. For example, we had a session with the STAC where we looked at metrics. And so all of that fed into a set of about 50 metrics that across each of the functional areas that were within a framework using a balanced scorecard approach. So we had 3 categories looking at service performance, quality and performance, and financial value. So some of the key takeaways from that were, of the 50 metrics we proposed, 25 were pretty much confirmed by the functional leads and self-service unit representatives that reviewed those metrics. 8 people had some questions about and wanted to further discuss and clarify what we were trying to measure or modify what those were. Another 8 people suggested some changes too, but ultimately thought that they were things that we needed to measure. There were 6 additional measures proposed, largely in the research admin area, and then 5 that were recommended just to be excluded because they weren't appropriate or weren't really specifically measuring what we were looking at for the self-services versus maybe what may be more of a central function. Next slide, Courtney. So then looking at the next step on that, where are we actually ready to measure? That's a smaller number. There were only about 10 where we got feedback that people are currently collecting or data is available to actually measure some of the things that we want to track. And in some cases that may be some schools have the data available, but we don't have it campus-wide, or in some cases we may be able to do it campus-wide. For example, we do IT customer service surveys already and track timeliness. Those are things that we can pull, but we don't have that everywhere. There's another 29 where once we can get some data or systems in place and tracking, then we would be able to pull those measures. So research admin was the area where we had the strongest data readiness and information we're already collecting. Other areas we're going to have to do a lot of additional work to be able to track those metrics. One of the key things we're missing in a lot of areas is any kind of standardized workflow tracking, an approval system, which I'll talk about a little bit next when we talk about workflow technology. So next steps on KPIs. We're going to look through those measures where we have consensus with our functional leads and our self-service units and more clearly define what we are measuring for each of those, what methodologies we're going to use for collecting those. And then we'll be working with each of the appropriate leads and subject matter experts in those different functional areas to look at where we have the data. Where we have it available now, we can go ahead and collect. We can even look back potentially and do sort of a retrospective look at where things were so we can track for a longer period of time. And where we don't have information, we're going to be working on developing plans and prioritizing where we want to build out the capability to collect that data. And then we'll be developing some draft dashboards for first internal review. Obviously, we don't want to just be throwing that up for leadership until we have kicked the tires a little bit on that and people are comfortable that the information is usable and informative and actually helps inform the decision making and strategy for service first. And of course, some of those measures will show under development until we can actually get the data in place to be able to track those. Next slide. So workflow and technology enablement. There's a lot of parallel messages here. So we did a survey across all of the units to look at what technologies and systems and tools people were currently using within all of the functional areas. One, to try to identify where we might be able to have some standardized systems, looking for recommendations on where we might want optional tools versus enterprise, opportunities for automating business processes to make things more efficient, and also to support where we want to be able to track KPIs and metrics. We found there's a lot of variation. There's over, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but there were over 60 tools identified across all of the units. A lot of people still using email and text and other methods that are not trackable. Spreadsheets, very manual to be able to track work and assign things. So that creates some challenges in having transparency and data reporting around processes and workflow. Two areas where there is some consistency and a lot of schools are using are for team dynamics, largely in IT, and then Razor is another tool that people are using across a number of functional areas. So there we see some opportunities, and one of the key ones that came out that's a priority is sort of enterprise or enterprise service management. So how are we managing approvals and workflow and tracking things and monitoring timeliness and all of that. So the next steps on that, and I think next slide, Courtney. Oh, wait, sorry, never mind. Don't have another slide. But so next steps on that were really, we have talked with Operational Excellence and they are working with the Vice Chancellor for IT on identifying a plan for how to explore opportunities there for improving our service management across the campus and looking at what tools we should use and what's preferred or recommended and what resources would need to be put in place to be able to facilitate that. So now
Thanks,
I will
Erin.
hand it back to you, Scott.
No, I appreciate it. And one more slide, just the plug for the office hours has been mentioned. If you have questions about that, it's accessible through the webpage, or you can contact Courtney, Erin, and I for any Zoom support if you need that. But we will have that next Wednesday at 9 a.m. and then throughout the fall semester, these forums. And if we need to increase the cadence of those, to do those every other week, we're very open to doing that if that's needed. So Courtney, if you want to stop share, and Rebecca, that's the content that we had for today. I feel like there may have been some chat questions that flowed through. I'm not sure if you want to start with those or some of the questions that you received since our last meeting.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and start with a couple of the questions that have come up since the last meeting, and then we can address any additional questions in the chat. During the Board of Trustees meeting, both back in May, I think, but also he acknowledged this in the most recent Board of Trustees meeting, that there's a lack of baseline or benchmarking for identifying improvements. And so I guess my concern with the benchmarking, or not the benchmarking, but the points that you're going to be measuring is we're going to start measuring these as implementation is happening. So rather than having a baseline of how things were operating before implementation, we're going to have a baseline of what is going on during implementation, which, may very well show that from now until the point that we measure again, we will see an increase, but that's not necessarily going to reflect that it's better than what was in place before service first. And so I'm I'm curious as to why that KPR and benchmarking work was not done before the models were created, before implementation began, so that we had some real measurements of the before and after.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. And I don't know if you remember my comment from the last employee forum where I said, one of the biggest misses that I wish I could go back in time and do prior to even moving into this role was to do a baseline, really qualitative assessment of service across campus, and blend that in with the quantitative side. Now, what I didn't really realize is that there's a fairly large gap in what people are collecting for performance across the in-scope functional areas and are not. And I would argue that a majority, this type of tracking of operational performance, whether it's traditional KPIs and metrics or blended with more of a qualitative approach, it was just lacking on campus. I mean, there are some practices of it, but truly hardwiring it in. The intent of the initial list of operational metrics would fold into data that I feel like can be retrospectively collected. And as we share those, you'll quickly notice some of the metrics that are measurable, like this actually within a system now, or we don't have the number. And so there's going to be a mixture of metrics. That is, we will have some historical benchmark based on the look back period. And then there'll be a fair number of metrics that no one's collecting at this point. And so as we share that, the intent is to have a blend of retrospective review for the ones that we've got to hopefully give that initial baseline. As I mentioned, the qualitative side for more of a shared services solicitation across campus. We are going to do that type of survey, but I know from my own journey in survey experience that there's going to be some bias in that. And the way I found that we move through that is, we get implementation and you have a series of multiple years of being able to recalibrate on what that is. So Service First is definitely intended to establish that common measurement framework and consistent with what you all have been sharing. What's the service quality? What's some of the efficiency and workload, but also additionally is important, what's the customer experience? What's the customer experience for the self-service units? What is it within the health sciences pod versus the academic professional pod? And similarly for the administrative, we have some units that are doing some things, and the work that Aaron's been executing on with the functional leaders and then the self-service unit pod initially was because that structure had come into place quicker. I'll be quiet after this. We recognize the value of the historical data, and creating that standardized measure is an important step towards really knowing what the improvements over time will look like. And it will be iterative. And unfortunately, we don't have the ability to go back in time and grab data before we launched. But the intent of this work stream structure in particular with the campus community is to share where we are based off of external conversations with other higher ed entities that are doing shared services. And then what's right for UNC-Chapel Hill is the interest of internally benchmarking as well. And we'll see for some of the metrics that we've been able to find more national standards and where we are. The intent to launch isn't to be like, hey, all of a sudden you've got to meet this new standard. We truly want to have as best baseline as possible for the KPI metrics value dashboard work stream.
Thank you. You shared the operating model, the revisions to the operating model today. Is there a plan to share that out to all of campus? I know we haven't really had any updates since June, which was really frustrating for staff who were both those of us who were wondering what was going on, but also staff who were being directly impacted by implementation. I recognize that your staff may have been on vacation and there are staff throughout campus that take some vacation, but continued updates during the summer would have been greatly appreciated. So just, something to keep in mind of making sure that there's not a gap in that communication. I know there were some updates to leadership that did not filter down to the employee forum chair, which was a little frustrated with because we do get a ton of questions. But just kind of what is the plan for ensuring that all of campus is aware of this change in models and what is going on with Service First?
Yeah, it's hardwired in that regular communication has always been important to the service first journey. And I know at times we haven't met all the commitments. And I apologize for that. The reference to the summer schedule honestly was intended to acknowledge, as you all know, many the campus groups we were using in committees, they just meet less frequently during the summer. We also hit a little bit of a lull as the discussions with the senior leaders, the steering committee, and the deans about the best approach for leading the pods. It really went back and forth with conversations into June, spinning into the July 4th week, ultimately to what, Rebecca, you mentioned, what was communicated to campus for the updated operating model was initially within Vice Chancellor Knuffman's email, but it didn't go into detail like I tried to provide today of what has changed. And so it was not intended to say staff are not in place. And I know that is the fabric that keeps the university going. So our intent going forward, regular communications through the monthly website. We've got a plan for that throughout the year. As we mentioned, the town hall and monthly office hours. And if we need to increase the cadence of those, we're very open to doing that. We'll make sure that we have alignment with the employee forum. And we recognize that keeping the campus informed about progress is a big piece to the word that was used earlier about trust. And the commitment to being able to do that. So duly noted, our plan again is to execute on the monthlies at a minimum, the monthly town halls. And if we need an employee forum invite, we were communicating with Natiaya and Rebecca and Matthew about planning out to make sure calendars on our side for employee forums throughout the fall, that we've got intended time to continue making updates with this forum as well.
All right, thank you. So I will say that just a reminder to folks, if they're interested, the Service First team is hosting their Service First drop-in office hours next Wednesday, August 12th at 9 a.m. You can go to their website, and for those of you online, that has been dropped in the chat. And about halfway down the page, you can click on the monthly Zoom office hours. No registration is required. Just click on that office hours, and you can attend that. They are also recorded. Yes, Natasha.
Do we have time for me to ask a question?
Oh, yeah. You do.
Okay. Hi, Scott. It's Natasha Young. I have hopefully what's a quick question for you. What is your operating budget in Service First?
Minimal. I say that in jest, right? I mean, it's built as a department the first time, and structurally in the budget, I'm in budget year one. Service First, at least in terms of my position, also has the Service Center of Excellence flowing in there, which will continue to be separate. The commitment to Service First right now, in terms of direct expense, would be the team members of Aaron and myself. Courtney Alston was drafted from the Service Center of Excellence group. So right now it has a baseline of FTEs of 2. And mine's kind of split, right? And then the new assistant vice chancellors coming in would be, an off-budget shift of those funds into Service First. And then as individuals are moved into these pods, that budget money would flow as well. So it's small right now, at least from the scope of what we're trying to pull off, but over time with the off-budget requests. Now, last thing I'll say, on the non-personnel side, I think if you stay tuned in to different public records requests, we did have a commitment from Vice Chancellor Knuffman of initially $50,000 to partner with a company that the work you all saw for the environmental scan, PFM. PFM is still a partner. We executed on a additional statement of work with them, which was another $50,000. So total commitment to them thus far has been $100,000 over the past 9 months of support. So that's at least off the cuff my current operating budget.
Got it. Thank you, Scott. The reason I'd asked that was, and my secondary question is obviously seeing 2 AVP type roles that are currently being posted and recruited for. It also makes me wonder, what exactly is the longevity of Service First? Like you mentioned that your budget line is very minimal right now, upwards of $100,000 for things that are not including staff salary. And so I'm looking at having, you obviously is the person that leads the team. You have 2 other staff members and there are 2 other staff members potentially being hired in. What is the long-term, I guess, impact or role that Service First intends to have on campus? And how will that continue to be written into our future budgets as a university?
Is that a short answer question or a very long answer?
You can take your. I know we're a little over time, so feel free.
That's layered. That's a layered one, and so off the cuff, just in brief time. Now, consistently, I think that the Chancellor and the Service First Steering Committee has aspired for Service First to be a new operating model for the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And the operating structure that you see now with self-service units, the 3 pods, the long-term budget structure would be like what I mentioned. There's a departmental structure with this fiscal year of where my unit has departments that are titled Health Sciences Pod, Administrative Pod, Academic Professional Pod. And so as we get into discussions of what people are impacted, the intent would be that there would be a movement of FTE and personnel salaries and benefits into these pods that would be administered broadly within that leadership structure. So that future state of what will it look like for overall structure, I would look forward to the journey this fiscal year where it's more of an off-budget journey as it grows. But as we get into the budget process just later this year, the planning for what the totality of a Service First would look like for those 3 pods, right? The self-service units are going to stay intact to where they would continue their unit view. But that would be the planning. And then the accoutrement of software needs and those things, does that stay in IT? Does it stay in the units? We'll see over time where it will grow. But my intended leadership has been consistent throughout the time starting is to embed Service First into the culture and deliver on the ultimate results of what the university aspires for. So
Thanks for that, Scott, and best of luck with moving your kiddo into college.
And that's a coffee conversation. I appreciate your questions each time. And so if you want to dig in deeper, you know where I am. If you want to spend some more time on that, happy to discuss. If you have suggestions or thoughts, I always have welcomed, Natasha, your insight. So just throwing that out there.
My proposal to save the university $17 million is always on the table. Thanks, Scott.
I know it is. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you, Scott. I do want to share one thing. It's not really a question, but just something that I observed during the Board of Trustees meeting that I think for purposes of addressing this in the idea of trust and being thoughtful about the impact on the university. Vice Chancellor Knuffman said that of the $25 million administrative spending cut, that quote, attrition first, we have a sizable number of vacancies across campus. We've been careful about trying to really think about how we redistribute work, and we've been managing on campus with a sizable number of vacancies. As we think about next steps, we can think of permanently reducing those areas. We've been operating well on campus now, even with this level of vacancies. So we feel confident we can achieve that target. Next steps, we are currently working to document position savings. We will need to have consistency of staffing levels across those different functional areas. Maintaining control over administrative roles and positions, so a kind of central mechanism to ensure when we're adding administrative staff, there's a check there to ensure we are right size. Timeline, we are aiming for October 1. A list of vacant positions that will be eliminated and a movement of staffing into shared service centers. There'll be some additional time to go through any filled positions that would be impacted down through fall. End quote. My concern is, and something I think needs to be addressed in communication from Vice Chancellor Knuffman, from your team over the next month or longer, is it feels to me in listening to that that's a bit of a crude tool, more of a hammer than a scalpel. It doesn't acknowledge the actual needs of the institution when you say we're going to cut vacant positions that have been vacant for a long time. It doesn't account for the fact that the fact that they are still vacant, maybe because of non-competitive salaries, reputation challenges related to our institution right now, or decreases in staff benefits that make our positions less desirable for folks looking for positions. I'm also a bit concerned that the statement, "We've been operating well on campus now, even with this level of vacancies," is perhaps a bit out of touch. The staff I am hearing from are burning out because positions have not been filled. We do our jobs well, and we do fill in when there are not people here, but it doesn't mean we are doing them well from a perspective of self-care and being able to maintain that work long-term. So yes, we are getting that work done. We are dedicated staff and state employees. We will continue to get that work done. But as we eliminate positions that have been vacant for a while and anything else we do related to service first, I really just want it to be known that that communication, how we do that, needs to be mindful of the incredible work that our staff are doing with vacancies that we've been desperately trying to fill because we need people. Thank you. All right, I would like to go ahead and turn the microphone or the Zoom over to the very patient Linc Butler, Joe Williams, and Chip Ross, who are going to give us some human resources, health plan, and total well-being updates. So Associate Vice Chancellor Linc Butler, if you would like to go ahead and take the floor.
Thanks, Rebecca. Good to see everyone again. Here we are in early August, which of course means Halloween decorations and possibly Christmas decorations in Lowe's and Walmart and places like that. So good to be back together with you all. I do want to address one of the questions in the chat about slowdowns on HR actions. There are two things that are really impacting that. One is for any actions that require submission to the system office, we are required to have endorsement from both the Chancellor and the CFO before we can submit those down. So that does add time to the process. And then secondarily, more specifically to service first in scope positions, the process we have set up now is we do need the task force leads of each of the functional areas to review those actions. Those are more often requests to post positions and things of that nature. So that in turn also adds some time to the process. But certainly, Kelly, if there's a specific action or any of you that you're concerned about that's either with us or in the pipeline, do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to chase it down and see kind of where things are. So that being said, a couple of things I want to point out to the group to pay attention for when the Workwell, August Workwell comes out a little bit later today. First and foremost, it's almost time to have time for our Employee Appreciation Day in October. It'll be October 16th. So there's news about that in the Workwell. Be on the lookout for that. It's almost time to kick off the Carolina Cares, Carolina Shares campaign once again. That's one of my favorite things that this university participates in, because we always inevitably lead the way in giving related to that effort. That's a statewide effort. So that kicks off at the end of September, September 29th. And there's also going to be some information in the Workwell about aligning some no meeting days with the student well-being days. Those are September 21st and October 6th. So more details in the Workwell. You can dive into that once that comes out. Also, there's going to be information there around kind of where we are with the legislative increase implementation. The 3% increase for eligible permanent employees has been implemented. As a matter of fact, today is the pay date that it will show up for the first time in the biweekly paychecks. And for the monthly paychecks, they did show up in the July paychecks. There's still some work to be done relative to what was in the budget bill. All of you are very familiar with the fact that there were also one-time bonuses in the amount of $1,750 for folks making $65,000 or less, and also $1,000 for folks making above that amount. The instructions from the legislature was to pay that as close to October 15th as possible. So what that means for us is for our biweekly employees, they will see those bonuses in the October 16th paycheck. And of course, our monthly folks will see that in the October 31st paycheck as well. The other big wrinkle in this particular budget bill that we've talked about before at previous meetings that we've really not seen before is the requirement that hourly temporary employees are eligible also for the 3%. We're currently working through that now. We were awaiting some additional guidance from the system office before implementing that or looking to implement that in the August payrolls as well. So still some work to be done there. And I just want to give a big thank you and shout out to the team that made all this possible. Walter Miller and his team in payroll services, partnering with Rich Arnold and Dave Turner in the HRAM team. Adam Beck and Vanessa Ragland from the OHR team, and also Hillary Hall from the comms team for F&O. It truly is a massive effort. There's, it's more than just flipping a switch to make these things happen.
It's a lot of math.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of correction work that has to be done once it's loaded, a lot of testing to make sure we get it right. And this team just does a phenomenal job. So big thank you to them. That being said, I will pitch it over to Joe. I'll keep an eye on the chat if there are other questions in the HR space, and I'll do my best to address them as we go. Thanks.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah,
we can.
Okay. Thank you. I literally like 6 minutes ago, I went to check my camera and it was not working. I was like, oh, so I ran over to our IT guy and he had a little portable camera that I just clicked on and set it in and it's all working. I want to make sure the audio part works. So very good. I want to talk briefly just for a few moments about the state health plan, and I'm going to bring up my slides here and we will kind of talk through some of that information. So give me just a moment here. All right. So in our benefits update, I want to first just mention the P&A group. That's the state's vendor for the flexible spending account. You'll recall we had sort of the data breach scares over the last month or two. P&A finally has reported officially, and OSHR has confirmed that no databases were breached. So all of our social security numbers, financial information are all secure. Apparently what happened was that hackers essentially got in and took control of their sort of customer-facing web pages and were able to get control of that. But those, again, they couldn't go any farther. So we are grateful for that. That was sort of while it was a scare, that there was really no bad kind of actions that we'll need to take to protect our identities or credit. So good news on that front. Next up, a lot of stuff has been happening with the state health plan. You've probably seen some of this in the news and some of the email that the state health plan has sent out. So I want to just talk through briefly just sort of what does this really mean for us? There's a lot of stuff here, even like the slide is a very busy slide, but one of the big changes for 2027 in January is that they are adding in this new provider tier. Now, fortunately for UNC-Chapel Hill folks who utilize UNC Health, UNC Health and Novant Health are the two providers that have agreed to come on and be a part of this preferred tier. Now, what does that mean? So the state health plan, along with their board of trustees, as they have created this preferred tier, they went out and talked to all the major healthcare systems in the state. So the Moses Cones, the Dukes, the Wake Meds, and UNC Health, Novant, and others. And they said, here's what we're offering. UNC Health and Novant were the only two that sort of took them up on the offer. And essentially what this preferred kind of tier means for the healthcare providers is that they're agreeing to take perhaps lower funds for medical services that they provide. But the state health plan is saying, we will send more people your way. So you'll have more customers. And they can do that because they're incentivizing state health plan participants to better utilize UNC Health and Novant Health. If you're not familiar with Novant, Novant is more sort of in the Piedmont, kind of that Winston-Salem kind of central part of the state. And again, UNC Health has hospitals, medical centers across the state and are continuing to grow those out as well. Now, some of you may be Duke University, Duke Health provider users. In your case, nothing is going to change for you. So for next year, Duke will be an access provider. And even though there's some more costs there, nothing will change for you. You will have sort of the same kind of copays, deductibles, co-insurances that you have today. There are, of course, non-preferred providers. Those are just very few providers in the state who've just said, we don't want to play ball as an access provider. We don't want to be a preferred provider. So they're going to be considered non-preferred. And then there are those providers who are just out of network. Typically, those tend to be more out-of-state type of providers. But let me dig in real quick on this preferred tier and what it sort of really, truly means for you and I. So when you look at this chart, and I kind of, just blew up this chart a little bit. If you were to use, and we'll just use our UNC Health provider, if you were to use a UNC Health provider, those numbers that you see in green, that's all you pay. So let's say you've got to go into the hospital to have a surgery. You've got to be maybe in the hospital for a few days for recovery. If you use UNC Health or Novant Health, you're going to pay under, this is the standard 70/30 plan, you will pay $750. And that's it. That's your copay. There's no deductible. There's no co-insurance if you're using UNC Health or Novant. The high cost imaging, those are things like your MRIs or CAT scans. Typically, those are subject to deductibles, subject to co-insurance. Again, a flat copay. So I think there's some really good win for those of us who use UNC Health providers and maybe even in the future Novant providers. The other good news is they're going to be keeping the Lantern surgical benefit. And I can actually attest firsthand. I have an outpatient surgery scheduled on Tuesday morning with a Lantern provider over in Winston-Salem. And I will say it has been an amazing process. Lantern has been super just hitting the mark every time with just providing great service. I've already got a preloaded debit card to help offset mileage expenses, meals. And again, it's really a great benefit. And I'm really impressed with the process. But we'll be keeping that again going in for next year as well. So again, some good stuff happening on this front with this new preferred tier. The other things I want to share is, again, just sort of another look at kind of the copay aspect. And I want to highlight behavioral health. Now, let me pause here just for a moment and share something that I will call it kind of breaking news, if you will. So since 2008, we have not received any kind of medical data from the state health plan on UNC-Chapel Hill employees. Previous to 2008, we would annually receive like a report of here are like your top 10 medical issues that your employees are going through. So we've really had no way to do it. They stopped doing it. Well, we were actually reached out to by the executive director of the state health plan, Tom Friedman, and some of his staff, and they met with us about a week or two ago, and they gave us our data, and they said, here are your top 10 things. And I want to share the top 4 things because I think this slide is going to help speak to some of that. And I will say, and some of you who know me, you know that I've worked in all 3 triangle universities. I ran the benefits at NC State, I ran the benefits at Duke, and now I've been here 5-6 years at Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill's the best, by the way. I love this job. In the past, things like high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, those are always sort of the number 1, number 2 things. Guess what number 1 is for UNC Chapel Hill? Number 1 medical issue is anxiety.
Anxiety, yes, I can relate.
Number 2.
Oops, I'm on the mic. Oops.
Number 2 is depression. Number 3, high blood pressure. Number 4, cholesterol. And, that really, speaks to me because it's like, wow, people are really going through a lot of challenging times. And we've got to do, what we can to help employees with anxiety and with depression and do a better job at that. So I'm working, of course, total well-being falls under my purview. And so Chip, who you're going to meet in a few minutes, we are working on some ideas for how do we better get more resources and help employees access these things and these folks that can help them. One of the things you see on this slide is behavioral health. And so what the state health plan has done is they've made a commitment. They're sort of putting their money where their mouth is, and they're saying, hey, for a $15 copay or $10 copay, you can see a behavioral health specialist. And you'll notice It's under all three of those kind of tiers there. Now,
So
certainly there are some, therapists, counselors out there who they don't take insurance, so they perhaps are considered out of network. And I realize that's a difficult thing, but there are literally thousands of other providers in the state, mental health providers, that we can utilize for these little bit smaller copays. So again, some good things coming out of the new plan design for January 2027. I also want to talk about some of the rates, and rate-wise, the General Assembly actually kind of came through and were able to allocate a little bit more money to the state health plan than first anticipated. We were looking at getting kind of $10 to $30 a month increases just for the employee-only part. Just as an example, subscriber simply means employee. So employee only under the standard plan is $36.76. This year it's $35, so it had $1.76 per month increase. Now, while we don't like increases, we realize, of course, the cost of medicine, the cost of pharmacy, all of those things just continue to increase. And so the state health plan has to kind of work through to make sure they're getting towards that kind of balanced budget. Open enrollment certainly is also coming up October 12th through the 30th. As in the past, everyone will default to that standard 70-30 plan. If you want that plus 80-20 plan, you will have to take action. And then, of course, your other benefits like flexible spending accounts, if you want to participate in those, you do have to make a proactive enrollment for that. So again, a lot more information coming out about open enrollment. We've already had our several communication team meetings about that, and excited to share more information about open enrollment. And then finally, not next year, but the year after, January 2028, most of you have heard, and probably some excitement about this, is that Blue Cross Blue Shield will be the new third-party administrator for the state health plan. They will also be the new pharmacy benefits manager. Currently, Aetna is the third-party administrator, and CVS Caremark is the pharmacy benefits manager. Blue Cross will have, again, both of these January 2028. I am personally very excited about this. I really enjoyed having Blue Cross Blue Shield as the third-party administrator, and glad that they're coming back and supposedly coming back, even better than they were prior. Regarding pharmacy benefits, I know I've been in some discussions and some email chains with some folks from the employee forum regarding medications. And let me just say real quick that the formulary that the state health plan has is something that it's a big giant PDF document. I mean, several hundred pages long, and it basically you can access that document on the state health plan's website. It's called the pharmacy formulary, and you can see every single kind of medication that's covered, how it's covered, what tier it's covered under, so you can kind of know some expected cost. Now, the formulary, again, what's covered by the state health plan, changes quarterly. And most people don't realize that. They think it's maybe an annual thing, but it does change quarterly because either new medications are coming out, on a pretty rapid basis. Things, change over time. And so again, that's why they do it quarterly. Now, someone asked me the other day, they were like, well, I have a particular medication that's no longer covered. I've got to kind of change, either medications or move to a higher tier or move to a generic kind of medication. And they're not happy about that. And so they're saying is, who is making these decisions? And I will just say it's the state health plan. It is the state health plan, and there's a committee called a Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee. And again, it is kind of volunteers that are appointed through the state to be on this committee, and they're the ones that help make these decisions. There are, of course, medical folks, pharmacists that are a part of this committee as well. But just be aware of that medications may change from time to time. And then finally, update on total well-being. Many of you, of course, have grown to love Jessica Pygis over the years. You may have heard that she has left UNC-Chapel Hill to be the new state wellness director for the Office of State Human Resources. We're very excited for her about that, but sad for us that we have lost Jessica. But as things worked out really well for us, we had just hired Chip Ross, who comes to us with well over 20 years of corporate wellness program management. And he will be serving as our interim senior manager of total well-being. And again, we're going to continue doing what we do. You should not see us kind of skip a beat, and we will continue to develop on, sort of next steps and how we can continue to grow, especially in light of anxiety and depression being our number one, number two medical issues here at Chapel Hill with our employees, how we can better kind of move the needle on some of those. And then certainly we'll be recruiting for a new senior manager position. Let me stop sharing. I've not been able to see the chat, so any questions for me that I can help? And there's probably quite a bit in the chat, but how can I help?
Oh, there are so many. But I think most of them you can probably address directly in the chat, or
Okay.
you're welcome to send me. I think I'll get a copy of the chat. So if you answer them in the chat, I'll just pull them together and send them out to all our delegates. And that'll cover the folks that are here in person. But a lot of questions about pharmacy benefits, changing, having to change providers, and so a lot about the details of the particular plans that we have, or questions that are in the chat.
Great. I'll work on doing that. And again, I want to introduce you to Chip Ross, again, our interim senior manager for total well-being. And Chip has a little presentation to share with you as well.
And before we switch over to Chip Ross, there is one question that I think kind of touches on several of the questions in the chat. And it relates to the 4 tiers of care and the 4 different deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums. And so my assumption on how that, or my understanding of how that works is that if it's 1,500 in the preferred and 3,000, making up the numbers, for access or vice versa, whichever is the better one, that 1,500 is counted under the 3,000. Is that correct, or are they 100% separate in those deductibles?
So if you're, in the tier piece, they're going to kind of combine sort of those. So if you use 1,500 of it, it's going to credit you into that $3,000 deductible if you're having to use a different tier as well for that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Chip, sorry to interrupt there. And welcome, we're glad to have you here at the Employee Forum.
Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure to be here. And Joe, thank you for a very nice introduction. Yes, we're going to miss Jessica, especially me. I was here just a couple of weeks before all of a sudden Jessica was gone. And so I think of it as being, sticking my toes into the pool, and then all of a sudden somebody shows me from behind. But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm prepared.
We like your
Very,
background,
very
so that's
excited
okay.
to be here. And looking forward to seeing what we can do to help our folks have the best health possible. So, and Joe's correct. We went over some of these things earlier, a few days back, about the anxiety, the depression, so on and so forth. And that's something that I've been working on for quite some time, and I'm looking forward to doing that here at Carolina. And I'm glad to be back. I am an alum, and I love Chapel Hill, and let's see what we can do to help our folks be healthier here going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and share here. Hopefully I don't mess this up, because I've got a few slides. So you should see the old well right now, correct? And now my slides.
There we go. We got
All
them.
right. Great. Well, like I said, fantastic to be here with you folks. I've been here probably for about a couple of months, and getting my feet wet when it comes to understanding the campus dynamic, when it comes to everything that's going on here with health, well-being, so on and so forth. One thing that we have coming up that Joe wanted me to discuss was the well-being days that we will be having for our students. Now, of course, for our students, we do that to give them a little bit of time to focus on their well-being, their balance, so on and so forth. From the employee perspective, of course, everybody knows we still have to come to work on those days and work, but at the same time, this is our day where we encourage folks to not schedule any meetings. Okay, this is no meetings day, and this gives us a chance to do things that helps our well-being, our productivity, even things to help us with our sense of purpose, whether it's personal, whether it's in our occupation, those types of things. So I just wanted to give a brief presentation on some of the things that we're hoping you'll pay attention to on these days coming up. They're going to be September 21st and October 6th for this semester. And so we want you to be able to take these days to support your well-being one way or another. Here's a list of things. A few things are: one, I've got catch up and organize. I don't know about you guys, but I know that if my space is not organized, then my mind is not organized. It leads to a lot more anxiety for me personally. If I feel like I've got just a messy workplace, or if I've got some things like low-hanging fruit or whatever that I need to just knock off my list, if I can just catch up on some of that and organize, I feel a ton better. I think having a day like this allows us the time to do that. Other things that I personally like is being able to take a lunch break with one of my colleagues, go and enjoy maybe one of those nice restaurants we have here in Chapel Hill, or being able to take a walk around our beautiful campus with a friend, just to be able to, get out in nature, kind of just soak in some sun rays and just be able to just relax and find time for ourselves. One thing that I also appreciate is the ability to engage in volunteer activities. Some of your or our benefits allow us to have time to do volunteer activities. Great day to do it. And you can once again connect with others and do it with a colleague or two. Another thing is this also gives you time to attend a webinar or a professional development session. Now, Total Wellbeing offers plenty of those opportunities for you to do that. And just for us right now, for those particular days, we have things already set up for you to take advantage of. One, on September 21st, we will have a relaxation and winding down technique forum where we can go in and see this online, just to be able to learn some of those relaxation techniques that will help you on days when you're feeling stressed, all those types of things. In addition to that, inhaling positivity meditation, once again, allowing you to learn how to just breathe, just be able to release some of that stress, that type of thing. That's 12:30 on that day. And then, of course, in the afternoon, something for our leaders where it helps them to be able to manage during stressful times. Very, very important. Of course, on October 6th, we also have another thing for our leadership when it comes to being able to lead in high pressure times. And then once again, tools on how to handle stress. So for these and the many, many other opportunities we provide for you folks to view webinars and other developmental things, please visit this website here. It's on our HR site. And it's a calendar that you can go to and see what might be going on a day that you might have time to participate. And of course, we hope that you will take time on the 21st and the 6th to do that. Take time for yourself. No meetings, and do that type of thing. One other thing I did want to address while I'm here, and that is our wellness champions. Just to let you know that as a small team of currently two in Total Wellbeing, me and Miriam, we depend on our wellness champions to be our ambassadors to the campus. And this is a team that we greatly appreciate, but we want to be able to have someone in all of the divisions and all of the schools. And well, we're recruiting. So I'm just looking for folks that might be interested in doing this. There's no great qualifications individually one needs to have except to be very enthusiastic about health and well-being. And if that's something that you like, that's a person that we want to associate with as being one of our wellness champions. You will have the opportunity to contribute to a culture of health here at Carolina. That is something I'm wanting to build, and a culture of health just basically means making the healthy choice the easy choice. Whatever we can do in whatever way here at Carolina to do that, That's what we want to do. The only thing you would need to do is you would need to be able to dedicate up to 8 hours a month toward doing these wellness activities. And if you have a co-champion, that cuts down to 4 hours a month. And you would need to dedicate at least one academic year, so August to June. And if you want to do it multiple years, that's fine. But we'd like you to do at least 1 year. But this is something that we value, something we need. And like I said, we would like to have someone, a representative in every single place here at Carolina. So if you're interested in doing this, I would love to be able to have you contact us. You can use this email address here, the totalwellbeing@unc.edu. We're hoping to kick off here a little later this month. And I would love to have some new folks, new blood on board. And it would be my pleasure to be able to meet you. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you hopefully in the future soon.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was great to meet you. There's a chat question in the chat. Let me find that. Oh, are these wellness events open to all staff in the UNC system, or is it just the UNC-Chapel Hill specific?
Primarily for UNC-Chapel Hill people.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And hopefully, Chip, you'll be able to join us in person at a future meeting. We would love to meet you in person one time, at least. Next, I'd like to move on to our consent agenda. Come on, button. There we go. Do I have any reports from committees that need to be pulled out of our consent agenda? No. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda, which includes approving the minutes for May 1st and June 5th meetings?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. I've got several motions to do so and several seconds. Is there any opposition to doing so, to approving this? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move forward to the next item. The next item on the agenda is old business. Committee leadership announcements. I do want to mention that they are not. Bye, Keith. Keith is now leaving the building. All right, we'll see you next time. But I do have a couple of additional committee leadership positions to fill. If you have not already completed the survey that I sent out for you to fill out what your interests are, please do that. I think we have about 20 more delegates that we need to hear from. Even if you have emailed me, my inbox has over 3,900 emails right now. So if you emailed me, I'm probably not going to find it for a couple of weeks, but that survey pours right into the spreadsheet that I'm using to track who is interested in what committee. And so I would really appreciate it. If you need that link again, please email Matt Banks or myself, and we will be happy to send that to you. I would like to entertain a motion, if there is one, to table our bylaws revisions. It is 11:17 and there's absolutely no way we are going to get through that.
I move to table the bylaws revision.
Excellent. And Ellie, I see you for a second. All right. Is there any opposition to doing so? Seeing none, we shall move that to September. All right. Is there any new business from anybody online or in the room? Let me check the chat. Don't think I see any. Linc and Joe are popular humans in the chat. As always. Seeing no new business, I have no additional announcements. I do want to thank our guests today, Alan Porch, Timothy Sampson. Not only did they come to present and share information about the awesome things that Staff Assembly have done for us and are continuing to do, but they stayed for the entire meeting, which I think is amazing because I know they are very busy humans. So thank you. If you are interested in being a delegate at large or being the what is it? Technology officer in the staff assembly, whether you are a delegate or whether you are just a staff member and are not yet a delegate, please email employeeforum@unc.edu and we will get that information to you so that you can toss your name in the pot for that, or the hat, whichever. It is hat day. So toss your name in the hat for one of those positions. It is 11:20 and I have nothing further. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Is there any objection to adjourning this meeting? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned.